Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. I do apologise if it sounds really noisy on my video today. It's quite windy outside and it's sort of blowing the deck pieces and trees and little bits of litter all about, so I do apologise. Now I'm going to make a card today that I saw my friend Jane Scott post, and I asked her where she found it, and she'd watched Sam Colcott, who has Mixed Up Crafts on YouTube, and she made a card like this. Nobody quite knows what it's called. Somebody thought it might be like an arrow type card or a triple point card. I really don't know what it's called either. I've watched a few videos on tutorials how to make it, and everybody calls it something different. But this is the card, this is the basic template that I made when I was learning to make it earlier. And as I say, I've never seen this card before, so I really wanted to have a try at it. And with it being a square card, everybody that I saw make it made it 6x6, but I don't have any 6x6 envelopes. All of mine are medium size envelopes, which are 4 3/8 by 5 3/4. So I scaled mine down so that it would fit just in a medium envelope. This was my template, this was my prototype that I made first, and then I had another try and I made it with some of the new designer series paper. And I'm going to show you how to make it. If you want to see the bigger version, go back to Sam Colcott's Mixed Up Crafts YouTube and she will show you the measurements for the 6x6. So I started off with my designer series paper, and this is one of the new papers called Bloom Where You're Planted. And I love this because there's lots of different greens in it. It works as a background paper, it works really nice as a focal point. And let me just show you some of them. I love this like brickwork effect. I think that's going to be one of my most used pieces. I have this little wood grain with plants on the other side, a nice sort of masonry effect. These are the two I actually used. Little plant pots, more wood grain, more plants. And then more of this one that you could see at the back. And I chose this really busy pattern and this one that's not quite so busy. Now, a couple of people said it was really good to have the busy designer series paper underneath and maybe something like an embossed cardstock or just a plainer paper on the top. But I actually quite liked it with a paper that wasn't too busy on the top and that was non-directional. I had a try at doing one with lines and checks on, but I found that when I turned these pieces, it didn't look quite right. So I chose sort of a nondescript pattern for the tops. And let's start and make one. I've got my basic white. I'm only using the thinner one. I'm not using the thick. And you need a piece. Let me just move that out of the way. There we go. You need a piece that's 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. Now this side is already 8 1/2, so I'm just going to put it in the trimmer and cut it at 4 1/4. Okay, that's all you need for this piece at the moment. I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4 because I want it to be just my square card. There we go. I'll just move the trimmer out of the way, but we do need it again. I'm going to put a little mark at the bottom here because I need to cut this V shape, this triangle piece. So what you need to do is just put a tiny pencil mark across the bottom at 2 1/8. Now don't worry if you don't get all the measurements because I will be putting it on my blog. Okay, so I've got this little mark here and we're going to cut that V shape. It's really easy to cut. You need to line this little piece and the top right corner up in the track. So let me just get my pokey tool and you can see. Okay, so where the crease is on the card, that goes in the first part of the track, and where the pencil mark is, that goes in the bottom of the track. If you don't have a trimmer that you can use like this, you could draw a line with a ruler and just cut that off. Now I always start, when I'm cutting from an edge, instead of trying to cut the edge and sometimes I get it sort of a little bit roughed up, I try and start in the middle and I go up and down. Keep this because you're going to need it for the front. Okay, just all you do now is we're going to cut from that top left to this little pencil mark. So I'm lining up my score line here and the little pencil mark in the track there, and just make sure that they're both in. Close it up and moving my blade up a little bit. Okay, so now I've got my triangle shape on the front. I'll put that to one side. And if you still have a little bit of pencil mark on the edge, you can just erase that. I know I've got a little piece on here as well. Okay, so that's going to make the base of our card. I'm just going to go over with my bone folder. Okay, and we'll pop that to one side for a moment. Next, you need to find 2 pieces of designer series paper. I've got this busy one for the underneath and the not quite so busy one for the top. And they're both cut at 4x4. And then I've also got another piece of the basic white that's cut at 4x4. The busy piece is just going to be attached inside the card like this. Let's glue that in before I make a mistake and cut it up. Okay, oops. So this we just need to glue in. You don't actually need too much designer series paper for this card. It sort of looks like there might be a lot, but there isn't. I did see on tutorials some people cut this piece down as well, and instead of having a whole background sheet of the paper, they just had 2 triangles. But I found it easier to do this way, to measure a piece 4x4 and stick that on the inside. Okay. Now with our designer series paper for the top and the whisper white piece, I'm going to, let's do that little marking first. I'm going to put a little mark at 2 inches across on the bottom of each. So I'm just lining it up on my paper. I know you probably can't see my grid paper. I'm just lining this up. Okay, so I've got a little one on each, and I'm going to do exactly the same as we did on the front piece. I'm going to get my trimmer, and I'm going to go from the top corner to the middle, and from the top left corner to the middle. So just line it up in the track again. The first one of these took me a little while, but once I'd made it once, then it was really easy. Okay, from that left corner to the middle. Oops, just move that slightly. Let's move that blade along as well. Okay, I'm going to keep those pieces together, and then I'm going to do exactly the same with the other whisper white piece, the 4x4 piece. I'm lining up that little line in the track and lining up the corner in the track. That's one, and here's the second piece. Oops. Okay. I don't need my trimmer again for a little while, so I'm moving that out of the way. Now, I'm going to put these pieces together first of all. This is the triangle that we just cut, and this is going to go on the inside like this, and then when the flap is folded over, you won't be able to see it. I like to use a wet glue for this, and that means that I can just move it around a little bit. If I haven't got it quite straight, it doesn't matter. If I've stuck it down with tear and tape or with the double-sided tape, it means that I can't always take it off. I can't wriggle it. So I'm lining it up with the top of the designer series paper so that I can't see the top of it. And I'm just going to fold this down. And can you see there's just a little bit there overhanging. So I'm just going to move it around a tiny bit. A little bit more. There. And now you can't see it. Let's find that bone folder again. Where have I hidden it? Excuse my help. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm just going to move that out because I can just see a little bit of the designer series paper. A little bit too late. Never mind. Okay. And then my other triangle is going to go on the front, and it's going to leave a little border look all the way around. Just going to put my wet glue on again, and that means I can wriggle it round. If I've not got it quite straight, it won't matter. I'm just going to pop it on the top, and then just moving it slightly so that I know I've got sort of a similar border all the way around. There we go. I'm going to put that down again with my, just with my bone folder. I've got something a little bit sticky on there. I'm just going to get my eraser, rub that off. I think it's glue. Oh, a little bit more on the edge. There we go. Oh, that's better. Okay. Now, the two little white pieces that we cut off this triangle, I've got here. And I'm not going to use these. These are the smaller white pieces. Some people use this one and this designer series paper and cut it down a little bit, but I like, just move those out of the way. These are the original pieces that we cut when we made the front of the card. So they're just a little bit bigger. See how they fitted just there? They're just a little bit bigger. I'm going to use that designer series paper that we cut. Now, when you do add these together, you'll see that it's quite a narrow little border. It's narrower than some of these, like these edges, but I liked it like that. I thought that looked quite nice. If you did want a bigger border, what you can do, let me show you on the other piece. On this piece, what you can do is just trim a tiny bit off this edge. That's the easiest way to trim it. Don't do the diagonal line. Trim the straight line, and you'll find that you can just take a little bit off if you want to. Okay, oops. Just move that down here. Okay, so now you can see I've got a little border. Oopsie, still glue is wet, but I've got a little border all the way around. I'm going to do the same with the other side. Stick it on this piece. Make sure that you've got one of each shape. Make sure you don't have this over this way by mistake, because then it wouldn't work. And when I made one just with card, because I didn't have a pattern on my designer series paper to look at, I did actually end up with two pieces like that, and it doesn't work. Okay, so I'll go back to this piece. Now, to work out how you're going to get this shape, you see these are my two triangles. How you're going to get this shape is I put them back in place, and then it doesn't matter which side you start with. I'm just going to move one out of the way, and you're going to turn it towards the middle, and you're going to line up this bottom left corner and this right hand side corner of the triangle, so that it's touching the bottom of the card and the left-hand side of the card, and so that you like where this point is. Some people had them so that the point was right at the top. I liked mine just a little bit further round, so that the tip of the white touched the top of the designer series paper instead. Okay, I'm just gonna move it, and you'll find that you get a really nice triangle at the bottom. And then I'm just holding it there. I'm not gluing it or anything. Get the right hand side piece and turn it to the left and do the same thing, so that these points all match at the bottom, and this just touches that corner, and your tip of your white card is touching the top of the DSP. Okay, now I like how that is, so I'm going to take the top one off, and I'm just going to put, I know that that's where it crosses over, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there. I'm keeping that one in place as well. And I'm putting this one back on. Just going to line it up the same place I just had it. So that it's lined up at the bottom, lined up at the right, and the card is just touching the tip of the designer series paper. Oops. I'm just going to hold it for a second to let it dry. And that will become our little crossover piece. Now, some of the tutorials I saw, they glued that, they put glue on here and stuck it straight down. A couple of people used foam tape to raise it a little bit, and I quite liked it raised. So I'm going to use just these dimensionals. I've got my bigger ones and my smaller ones. And to line it up, you just turn it over, put it on your card, make sure that you've got those triangles touching the bottom and the left and the right, and it means that you can see where this is going to be adhered to once you put your dimensionals on. A little bit of glue off. So I found it easier to do this, and I think this was one of the tips that Sam gave as well on hers. It looks like a lot of dimensionals, but actually it just holds it in place nicely. If you want to put the little ones on as well, you can put these sort of further up. You don't need them because the big ones will just hold it. Why not? Let's put one in the middle as well. Okay, so I'm done with the dimensionals. I move those out of the way, and I'm just going to take all the backings off these with my Takey Pick tool. Okay, throw those away, just check. I do like to just check that they've all gone. Okay, let's go back to this. And you know how to measure it up, how to make sure it's in the right place. Make sure all of those points at the bottom are in line, that the left and the right ones are just in line, and that these top ones look good. And there we are. That's your card made. So it really is quick and simple. It looks much more difficult than it is. Now to decorate it, I used the Plentiful Plants stamp set and the matching dies. And I also used my double oval punch. So I want to show you a little trick that I always use with these punches. I just make myself a template. I punch out, doesn't matter what colour paper or card it's on, I just punch those out. Okay, and then I use the punched out piece to work out which of the sentiments are going to fit on the oval. I used the Love You one, and I'm probably going to use the same again. But you can see I nearly picked this To a Dear Friend, but when you line it up inside the oval, you can see it doesn't really work. The Thank You doesn't work. You know, there's a few that will work and some that won't. So if you have this, it means it's really easy to check. And I also keep this piece because that shows me how big the backing is going to be. So I can check on there and think, yeah, that's the right size. If it was any smaller, then I might not use it. Or if it was any bigger, no, it wouldn't work. So I tend to keep these two pieces with my punch box, and when these are sort of stored in my punch box, I put these behind. I'll clip these two pieces together or use a glue dot or something and just keep them together. And then the next time, I don't even have to get the punch out. I can just get the little piece of card, I can look at all my stamp sets and work out which sentiment is going to fit in there. So I know that this little Love You one fits perfectly. And you can use one of your scraps triangles that you made. I'm going to use this as my guide. I know that this is going to fit in the punch, so I'm just going to lay it over the card. And that way, oops, let me just move that along a little bit. That way I know just where to punch. I'm not sort of stamping first and then thinking, oh, it didn't fit in. You know, I've cut a couple of the letters off or something. I know that it's going to fit in that space. And the stamp's not going to touch the edges. So, you know, it's not going to make any difference to your stamping. I'm going to stamp just a little bit nearer the bottom. Put that over there. And then I'm going to pop it through my punch. Oh, now I'm just going to have to trim that little piece off the bottom. Let me find my scissors. It's just a bit longer. There we go. If you find that it's difficult to hold the little piece of card, you can always put like half a sticky note on. You put it on something like this, and then that gives you a little bit extra to hold while it goes into the punch. So if you can't sort of reach with your fingers, a post-it note always helps. Okay, let's move those out of the way. And then I want a little piece of Mossy Meadow. This is the one I cut out before. It was just a scrap. As you can see, I've done something else with this card before. It doesn't matter. Punch that one out. And that's it. That's all the punching done. Let's put that over there. I then did just a little bit of die cutting. And these are the dies that go with the plentiful plants. And I cut out these little like little plant pots or little plant bowls and this leaf. So I cut these out in polished pink. You can see I've already cut quite a lot, but you only need the tiniest little piece of card for these. And it cuts this shape and this little oval planter, and you've actually got 3 dies. So you've got 2 of the oval one, yeah, like the cylinder ones, and then this shape as well. So if I'm cutting one, I might as well cut 3. I plop them all on the card and cut them all together. And then I use this little leaf. I don't think it goes with any of the stamps. No, it doesn't. But it's just the right shape. I cut that out of old olive. So, and they all fitted in the mini cut and emboss machine. So I didn't have to get my big one out. I just had my little one on my desk, and that was it. Now, let's start and put these together. I'm going to glue these together. Pop that on the background. And I just chose a colour that was in with the designer series paper. No, you choose whatever colour works for you, or whatever you have scraps of. I know not everybody's got all of the colours of card. I don't even have all of the colours of the card. Okay, now, I should have my glue dots over here, but I can't see them. So ordinarily, I would just put a glue dot on there and stick the little plant pot on. I'm going to have to just put a little tiny bit of glue. And it might show through those little holes to start with, but it will dry and then we won't see it. Now, I will warn you that when you cut these out, it looks like you've got measles or something, because there are thousands of these little tiny dots. You can see one just here. I got them all over the carpet. They're on my skirt. They're like static on my arm. So, okay. I'm going to pop a little bit more glue on there. A glue dot would work as well. And then I'm just going to put it just offset up near the top here. And leave that to dry for a little bit. Now, if you wanted, you could do another layer of dimensionals so that this was sticking out even more. But I know if I want to send this to the UK, then I can't put 2 rows of dimensionals on, or it doesn't go through the little envelope slot. And the next thing is just to choose where you want it. Do you want it further down? You might want it near the top, right in the middle. I'm going to put mine just sort of in the middle, I think, this time. Just going to pop my wet glue on. Just make sure it's in the sort of centered left to right. And I like how this little leafy piece sort of sticks out and gives a little bit more dimension. And then the last thing was I used my champagne rhinestones. Let me see, here they are. I couldn't see where they were then, because I just liked the colour of these, but lots of the embellishments would work. Let me just have a look what else is in my box, and I can just show you. Probably some of these holiday rhinestones in the mint macaron colour. Oh, last year's in colours, that green would work really nicely. If I'd chosen that green, like the Just Jade, for the edge in here, that would have worked really nice. If you only have pearls, don't forget that you can colour them. Use your blends or your Stampin' Up markers, go over them, colour them, make them whatever colour you like. The plain rhinestones would have worked. Anything you want. And let me see, I put one just on this little bowl. And then I had two down here. I had one of the middle-sized ones and a small one. But you certainly don't have to do that. You could make it so that you had a couple up here. You could make another 3 down here. Let's pop these on. Just whatever you think. Oops. Actually, I don't think I need another one, because that's a nice little odd number. Let's move this one along. If you don't squish these down too quickly, then you can move them about quite easily as well. So there we are. That's the little card that Jane showed me this morning, and Sam Colcott from Mixed Up Crafts has the tutorial for. But if you look on Pinterest, you'll find quite a lot of these cards. I put in the search engine like triple pointed, arrow cards, and eventually this kind of a shape came up. So let me put my other one here. I don't think I told you, this is the designer series paper that you earn as a hostess if you have a party or if you have a large order. So it's this great big pack of 48 pieces. There's lots of choice in there. One of the other papers that I was going to use was this hand penned, and I thought this piece would be quite nice. So this would be my busy piece underneath, and my top piece would be the spotty pale papaya. But thank you so much for watching me, and thank you, Jane, for posting the card. And I love it. I love the shape of it, and I love that it now fits in one of our ordinary envelopes. So thanks, everybody. I hope to see you all again really soon. Bye-bye.